A very good morning. Welcome back to another Daily Market Outlook. Fabio here. Hope you are doing good from wherever you are tuning in from in the world. Today is a massive day as we have NFP numbers coming out, and these NFP numbers will have the potential to push your USD up higher or further in towards the lows. Now, as you can see from my screen, we are still consolidating and the market has still not chosen a direction. We're still rejecting the 75% region and we're still finding support from the 25% region. For now, what we need to do is stick to the higher time frame because the lower time frame is extremely unclear. Now, looking here at the daily time frame, nothing much has changed, if I'm very honest. We've still seen a break of structure in towards the upside. This is still a swing low. This is still a swing high. This here is your liquidity low. And in addition to that, we retraced in towards the 0.5 fib retracement level. And from there, we've been pushing up further in towards the highs until price at some point in time stalled. So where did price start stalling? Price started stalling at the third trendline touch. So we had here was a one tap, a second tap, a third tap, and on that third tap, what did we get? We got this bearish candlestick here where a lot of people enter the market with a stop loss above the highs. So for me, there is a lot of liquidity resting above these overall highs. Okay, so in my opinion, if we do see a big push up and we see bad dollar numbers coming out, then we could see a massive push in towards the upside, definitely pushing all the way up in towards this high over here. If we see some good numbers, maybe we'll liquidate the high over here first and then, for example, see a drop back in towards the downside. So consider that what you should be keeping an eye on for now. For the rest, it's just obviously a guessing game here on EURUSD. So I'm not going to be participating in that guessing game. I'm mainly sticking and focusing on some other pairs that might be of interest to us at the moment, because for now, EURUSD is just stuck within this overall range. So it's just literally wasting your money if you try to trade this. Now, going into the dollar index is also consolidating. You can clearly see that what I drew in yesterday is still occurring here. We took out the overall range high, we took out the overall range low, and price is just stuck. So I'm just waiting again for the dollar index to see that news be released, and then we will have the opportunity to choose a direction here for those dollar pairs, right? So if we zoom out real quick and just focus on what the daily time frame has been doing, then we can still see here that the daily time frame has this little internal trend in towards the highs. We've swept the low, we've swept the low, so we still have some highs open. So I would favor a push up to grab up some more liquidity, but I could obviously again be very wrong. We're just gonna have to wait and see what happens at today in the afternoon. Now, going into the more interesting pairs, guys, as opposed to, for example, a EURUSD, was yesterday AUDUSD, because AUDUSD actually sold off back in towards the downside after retracing in towards the supply zone over here, which previously reacted to this supply zone over here. So the overall supply chain, with this being the first supply zone and then the tap and sell-off, this being the second supply zone, tap and then a sell-off, we can clearly see that we came back into that green supply zone over here, which reacted to the previous high probability supply zone. And then what happened, we saw a strong sell-off in towards the downside. Price came in, took out the bump in the road here, which I discussed yesterday, and from there we sold off in towards the downside until where? Well, until a liquidity low positioned over here, after which we reversed back in towards the high. So again, what can we see and what can we say about what's going on here on AUDUSD? It is just chopping around and waiting for the news to come out here. Entire week, you can see we haven't really headed anywhere. We're pretty much back where we began. Over here, I have the opens indicator. This yellow line here is the weekly open and the monthly open, and you can see that we're literally trading back at the weekly and the monthly open. So the market is consolidating. So there's not really a decision made yet on where price is heading next, but that should happen towards the end of today. Now, for NZDUSD or for AUDUSD, I don't really see any opportunities on this as of yet. So what I'm going to be waiting for is NFP to come out, and then after that, we'll make a decision on where we trade this next. Going into GBPUSD, we can see that GU came higher again. Now, yesterday we had some sort of a good analysis here where I highlighted that this descending trend line was building up a lot of liquidity. We came up exactly to the beginning of that overall trend line, and then we made an overall drop back in towards lows of around 40 pips. But then again, you can see prices just stuck within this range, and it kind of comes back to the moral of the story that you just shouldn't be trading in this NFP week, as it just holds a little bit more significance as the September rate cuts of this year, which are happening this month. So interest rate decisions, those are among the most important numbers pretty much of this, let's say, half year. that are being released. So that's why we're seeing such massive amounts of consolidation. So for now, we're just waiting on GBPUSD until it makes its next move, and then based on that, we'll reevaluate the situation. For the rest, nothing has really changed about the higher time frame, obviously, with this being the big swing down, this here being the liquidity grab. We've already seen a retracement above the 0.5 fib, as that's this black line over here approximately. So it makes sense to continue pushing down lower, but with NFP, we might just come back above all the highs and then, for example, look for a new sell-off. Going into NZDUSD, we can see that NZDUSD was similar to AU yesterday. The New Zealand dollar was very weak, a very great setup overall where we reacted to this previous 4-hour supply zone. Then we created a new supply zone with the overall sell-off in towards the downside. So then obviously on the retracement, I was looking for another short down lower. So where do we look for a short from? We look for a short after a bump in the road gets taken out. Now, a bump in the road, guys, if you're not aware, it's literally just on the way down a little pullback that you want to see get taken out. And when these little pullbacks get taken out, you will always see a reaction, as for example here, as for example here. So some obviously will be a little bit more heavy than the others. This one was a pretty heavy reaction in towards the downside due to it obviously being a higher overall retracement than this one, and the dollar index being in a better position. But yeah, after this break, there were some pips to be gained. So hopefully you gained that from yesterday's analysis. For today, I'll be sitting on my hands and just simply waiting. Now, looking at USDCAD, USD Swiss, USD and Gold, USDCAD has started to sell off from that liquidity high, that I mentioned in yesterday's video. So we can clearly see here that we've come back up higher in towards supply. I think USDCAD is a potential good sell back towards these two equal lows here. So we're looking at this and we clearly see that we have equal lows, with this being a major swing low where a lot of liquidity is still resting underneath. The market retraces in towards this imbalance area or this consolidation area. So this is a very clear area of supply, right? So a drop, basing structure, and then a drop. Price comes back in. The first tap gives us a strong bearish candlestick, enticing a lot of sellers. So a lot of people start to go short here on the bearish candlestick with the stop loss above the highs. Those stops have now been swept. Here's the 4-hour fractal low, and after that we could now see the overall liquidity low get targeted. So I think this is one of the better setups overall. USDCAD that has potential to sell off. Going into USDCHF, USDCHF for me is just consolidative. Hasn't really been respecting market structure at all, and it's just too choppy to overall trade. USDJPY is also a pair that I've been monitoring for potential short position as we've retraced back up into this 4-hour supply zone, and we're now seeing a downside continuation again happen. So let's see if this can follow through with an overall leg down. What I like about USDJPY is that we're at the premium of the overall range, and the fact that what happened here on the 4-hour time frame is you swept the high, and then obviously we're seeing some, let's say, downside pressure. But on the low side, we have still got this low open, and this low open. So there are some lows open, highs have been taken, so it would make sense to look for a short, as you've also got a 4-hour change of character in towards the downside, validating this area of supply. So I'm looking for a short on UJ potentially, but then again, just keep in mind, guys, it's obviously a gambling day to a certain extent, so there's no guarantee that these kind of trades will play out. Do you have a little bit of margin? Are you looking to pass a prop from challenge? Then if UJ or UCAD is in line with your overall expectation of the market, then go for it. But otherwise, obviously just sit on your hands. I wouldn't take these kind of trades on live capital, as it's, again, just simply a gamble. Now, going into gold, last of all. So gold pushed up higher as expected yesterday, again taking out the liquidity, and then after that the overall reversal / continuation in towards the highs starts to form. I mean, the 50-minute time frame, not the cleanest. 30-minute, also not really. We can see that the overall sell for the buy here was in control yesterday. Then again, the imbalance is in control and just continues to push the market up higher. Overall, nice piece of price action in the sense that, okay, yes, you can clearly see here that all of these ascending lows get taken out with this wick, and then the overall continuation up higher happens again. Now, today's going to be a massive day for gold because we are going to see either a massive pump continuation in towards the highs, let's say getting out all of the shorters who are starting to sell over here or who started to sell over here, and they're all going to be squeezed out, or we see a massive liquidation event in towards the downside where we start taking out all of these blue dotted lines here, and then from one of those I'll be starting to look for some longs again. So let's monitor that for today. Overall, the idea / concept still remains the same, and we can see that's played out pretty successfully from this line over here where you saw around a a 380 pip push in towards the highs after taking out this overall liquidity low, right? So this is what we aim to do across all of these different pairs, especially when the market is trending as hard as it is over here. You want to get in at some point, but how do you get into these kind of markets? Because when you look at, let's say, this area of demand, you see that there's no connection made with the overall demand zone. Furthermore, the demand zone itself is built on what? On ascending lows. So you only want to be trading liquidity in these kind of like situations where the market is as impulsive as it has been throughout this entire leg. So yeah, that's my 2 cents for today, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. Wish you all a fantastic weekend. Any questions, make sure to join Discord, link in the description of this video, and wish you all an amazing day. Thanks.